Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the severe cascading economic consequences of an idle workforce. We hear about unemployment all the time in monthly reports or passing statistics, but right now, we're going to break down exactly what happens to an economy when a massive chunk of its population simply can't find work. So, what is the true cost of an idle workforce? This question challenges us to look way past just the loss of a personal paycheck. We need to examine the deeper systemic impacts here. It's not just about one person's empty bank account, right? It's this massive domino effect that literally touches every single corner of our economic system. From national output down to the psychological well-being of the workforce, the true cost is far more devastating than it appears on the surface. Okay, here's our agenda for today. First, the true cost of unemployment. Second, the wastage of productive resources. Third, efficiency loss and depleted savings. Fourth, exploitation in the labor market. And finally, amplifying income inequality. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. The true cost of unemployment. Think of unemployment like a heavy stone dropped into a quiet pond. It creates this sequential chain of damage that wrecks both microeconomic stability and macroeconomic potential. It's not an isolated event. It's absolutely a systemic shock. When people stop working, they stop producing, they stop saving, and the whole balance of power in the labor market completely shifts. Let's look at the very first casualty in this chain, our resources.
Section 2. Wastage of productive resources. So, when the labor force isn't fully utilized, national output and income take a massive direct hit. Why? Because productive resources are just being wasted. If you picture an economy as a giant engine, every capable person willing to work is a vital gear in that machine. When you have idle manpower, your production and your national income are fundamentally stunted. The entire nation's prosperity drops simply because those capable hands and minds are kept idle. And this brings us to a really crucial economic concept, a dead loss. This means that unproduced goods and services are lost to society forever, literally gone. If a factory sits idle for a year, the cars or the computers it could have produced aren't just delayed, they were never created in the first place. That potential output is entirely wiped from existence, meaning society as a whole is deprived of those goods, which makes everyone collectively poorer. Moving on to Section 3. Efficiency loss and depleted savings. You know how quickly you forget a language if you stop speaking it? Well, there's a very tangible loss of labor efficiency that happens here too. It's a basic principle. A skill really only stays sharp as long as it's being used. When workers are out of a job for a long time, they don't just lose their income. They lose their edge. Their work habits change, their professional drive erodes, and eventually the sheer weight of joblessness can cause them to become totally lethargic and lose interest in work altogether. It's a really tragic degradation of human capital. Then there's the financial side, which brings a devastating two-pronged attack on savings. On one side, you have the unemployed individual who is forced to just eat away at whatever past savings they managed to scrounge together. On the other side, the employed members of their family have to step up and support them, which instantly throttles their own capacity to save. So the national rate of saving totally tanks because capital is being burned just to survive today rather than being invested for tomorrow. Section 4. Exploitation in the labor market. High unemployment creates a really toxic environment. Intense competition for limited jobs inevitably leads to depressed wages and longer working hours. Think about it. When you have 10 desperate people applying for a single opening, the power dynamic totally shifts to the employer. Unemployment actually becomes a direct source of exploitation. Because workers are competing just to survive, employers are in a position to offer much lower wages and demand significantly longer hours. It breeds an environment of sheer oppression. Employers can and often do weaponize this desperation. The constant threat of losing a job becomes a very effective tool to exploit the workforce. When everyone knows there's a line of unemployed people out the door just waiting to take their place, the active employed worker loses all their bargaining power. They can't ask for a raise, they can't push back on unsafe conditions, and they certainly can't refuse unreasonable hours. The idle workforce effectively becomes a club used to suppress the rights and wages of the active workforce. Finally, Section 5, amplifying income inequality. Because unemployed people are suddenly transitioned into low-income brackets, unemployment acts as this massive driver pushing populations directly below the poverty line. When wages are depressed across the board and savings are completely wiped out, you're taking a huge segment of your population and transitioning them straight into poverty. Persistent unemployment is, without a doubt, one of the most reliable engines for generating deep, widespread income inequality.
During these periods of mass unemployment, the low-income slice of the population expands dramatically. It severely amplifies overall income inequality across the entire nation. The middle class shrinks, and the gap between those who own capital and those who rely entirely on their labor becomes an almost impassable chasm. It's not just some temporary dip in the economic numbers. It is a fundamental restructuring of society's wealth that creates deep, long-lasting economic divisions.
So how fragile is our economic prosperity if it depends entirely on keeping the workforce active and secure? I want to leave you with that final thought. Think about how deeply connected individual labor is to the survival of our entire economic system. We've seen today how unemployment isn't just a personal failure. It's a dead loss of national resources, a destroyer of human capital, a huge enabler of exploitation, and a massive driver of poverty. Understanding these cascading consequences is absolutely crucial for realizing why a fully engaged, secure workforce is the bedrock of a healthy society. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and keep questioning the systems around you.